All right, Shane, we've danced around long enough. Let's get to our picks for the big game, the SEC Championship. All right,
They
Shane.
got some.
Alabama versus Georgia. First time since 2015 that the Crimson Tide are underdogs in a football game. That's just crazy. The Bulldogs favored by 6.5 points. The over-unders 49.5. And the game kicks off at 4 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Central on CBS. Who do you got in the matchup?
Mike, I think this line shifted already, man.
Has it?
I think Georgia's up 6. Yeah, I think it's 6.5 now. And Mike, this is forget SEC championship, Mike. This is the championship game. Okay.
Yeah.
We talk about. I mean, people are putting Cincinnati in these talks. They're like, hey, if all goes well, we'll put Oklahoma State in here. Oh man, blah 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 blah. Notre Dame, get out of here, Mike. There's two teams that are the best two teams in the country, and they play each other Saturday. It's Alabama Crimson Tide. That's the Georgia Bulldogs. Now, a lot of people say the Georgia Bulldogs ain't played nobody. Look at their strength of schedule. You know what I'm saying? They just blah, blah, blah. Top 50. They've not played anybody. It doesn't matter, Mike, because every time they played somebody, they destroyed them. Even the best teams, even ranked opponents, they destroyed them. It was never in question. Alabama has fought for their life since game one. And I look back at Alabama and I said, hey, all right, Shane, what did Alabama have trouble with? Last week, they had trouble with defense. Mm-hmm. They had pressure on their quarterback all game long. They had trouble getting the running game going. What's Georgia good at? Those two things. Then I think, okay, Shane, well, what about the game that Alabama lost? Well, who did they have trouble with? I think a little bit of the passing game. I think a little Weidemeyer. I think, they had a little problems on the outside there. Plus, they had turnovers. What is Georgia good at? All of that. Hell, I think they got the best tight end in the country. So I kept trying to find a way that Alabama could come up and beat the Georgia Bulldogs. I just can't, Mike. I can't. With the product I've seen here lately, it's not like Alabama started slow and they ended great. They were just seesawing and it felt like they just gave the game plan away last week in the Iron Bowl. And I think that's exactly what Georgia's need to see, that these guys are human. This ain't the same Alabama Crimson Tide that you've played in years past. So I don't think the Georgia Bulldogs are worried at all about Alabama coming in here. But, Mike, they should be, because you know why? They still got Nick Saban. Mm-hmm. They still got one of the best quarterbacks in the country. They got a ton of receivers. Yes, I do think this is the best opponent the Georgia Bulldogs had faced this entire season. And a lot of people are saying, well, hell, I can't tell who Shane's going to pick now. But the fact of the matter is, Mike, when it all comes down to it, that old saying, defense wins championships, I think that is what happened Saturday, Mike. I love the Georgia Bulldogs defense. I've never seen one like it. I mean, I've seen them do it in years past, but not complete games every game of the season. They just keep coming out and overperforming. We got people getting healthy at the right time. We got Stetson Bennett, a backup quarterback now. He looks like Joe Montana out there. I don't see a scenario where Alabama can put points up against these boys because they're going to live in that backfield, Mike. So give me Georgia, big time, 31, Alabama, 17.
Oh, man. Double-digit victory here for them Bulldogs.
Oh, man.
Huh?
I feel like once it's going to start out tight, we're going to pretend to ourselves that this is going to be a ball game, but then Georgia's going to really step on their throat. And once they get a couple turnovers, which they will have in this game, I don't think Alabama's going to be able to get back in it. Tell me I'm wrong.
Now, two things I didn't hear you mention there, Shane. The fact that them Georgia Bulldogs can never beat Alabama. Kirby can't beat Nick Saban. And, just the mental edge there that this program has over Georgia. And also the fact that Alabama's playing for their lives right now. There's just no scenario that I see and have found anybody to convince me that Alabama can win this football game, lose the football game and make the college football playoff. So, it's like you said, this is a college football playoff. This is a national championship. Right. And these are the games that Nick Saban and Alabama show up for the most. None of that, despite all that, doesn't phase you at all. Is Georgia going to win by such a large margin? What?
You could tell me what you want, man. I can't. Georgia, here's what they did. They planted a seed of doubt week one with Clemson, and every week since then they have proved me wrong. Every time that I think that they're not as good as I think they are, they come out and they perform better. It's just I try to find ways that they could. I mean, look what they did to Auburn, man. You know, and I know this is several weeks apart. It's 2 different games, but you know, they destroyed them, man. Yeah. It wasn't even close. Any team, Arkansas was on fire coming in there. They destroyed them. This Georgia, and you hear these sound clips come out with Kirby Smart pumping up. I mean, they want to destroy people, and that's what they're going to do. They're not afraid of Alabama for once in their lives. They're not afraid of the Crimson Tide, and I think that shows right out of the gate because guess who's bigger and stronger? Georgia. Now, they got speed on Alabama. Don't get me wrong. Some of these receivers, they're going to be playing in the NFL, just like the several first-rounders on that team. Alabama's riddled with talent. But I just think in the areas that they're going to struggle in, Georgia is just that much superior. So that's why I just don't think it's a game. It's just because it's not strength on strength, man. It's strength against weakness.
Yeah. Well, you know, it was just – I guess I'm just second guessing myself. If you guys missed it, go back and listen. I think it was on Wednesday's show. You know, Stats of Wars, their CFB graphs, also known by, but their computer model says Alabama's going to win this football game, Shane, and that just got me thinking on Georgia struggling on third downs and Alabama's ability to hit the deep shot and how that plays into the hands of the Crimson Tide in this matchup. And I'm going to be honest with you, Shane. I think Alabama is going to jump out to a big lead in this football game. I really do. I'm talking double-digit lead because I think Nick Saban and Bill O'Brien, I think they're smart enough to know that, they may not be able to go toe-to-toe with this Georgia team, but maybe they can jump on them early and get that psychological edge, and maybe Georgia will – maybe they're not as tough as we think they are. Maybe they truly haven't played anyone up to Alabama's caliber this year, and if maybe we get in a haymaker early, they'll crumble, knowing that they can afford to lose this game and still go on to the college football playoff. I think that's Alabama's only shot in this matchup because they're not going to be able to run the ball. It sounds like Brian Robinson's out. They're down to one healthy running back, and hell, you could give them 10 healthy running backs against this defensive front and their offensive line. It's a major, major disadvantage. So I think there's certainly a window for Georgia to win this football game, and it's something that I talked about earlier in the week. They've got to pass more on early downs. They've got to let Stetson Bennett cut loose in this matchup because I think you're playing right into Alabama's hands if you run the ball on early downs, and it creates third and long because Alabama's so good defending the run. Here's a key stat, Shane. I know I said Bryce Young and all these rushing yards. Now, I said better than -9, but Bryce Young's been sacked 33 times this season, Shane. Stetson Bennett's been sacked 6. I mean, that just goes to show how wide of a margin we have just on these offensive lines. And hell, no one's talking about Georgia's offensive line and the quality of players they got this year just because the defense has been so stellar and Stetson Bennett's been playing above his head and Brock Bowers should be an All-American, I think. He's on my All-SEC freshman or All-SEC offensive team. At the end of the day, I do I'm being honest, Shane. I think Alabama's going to find a way to jump out to a big lead and test them Georgia Bulldogs. But I think it's going to be a little bit of a reverse here of a couple years ago when, Tua struggled and they had to rely on Jalen Hurts to put them back in the ball game. If that happens to them Georgia Bulldogs, guess what, Shane? They got JT Daniels there on the sideline in the bullpen warming up, ready for his chance. I'm not even saying they're going to need him, but if they do need him, he's there. And I think Georgia makes a big comeback in the second half. They get over this Alabama streak. I think it's going to be a lot closer than you do, brother. But I got Georgia 28, Alabama 27. This time, Georgia is the one that breaks Alabama's heart because I think the Bulldogs, like we've been saying all season, the team of destiny, the best team in college football. They're going to go on to win the national championship if they get this done on Saturday. And hell, they still might do it even if they don't. They're just that good of a program. But at the end of the day, I just don't know that, I think Bryce Young and I think they're capable of getting some points in on Georgia, but I just don't think they're capable of getting much more than 27. And even that would be a season high.
So what was your final score again?
28-27.
Okay. Well, oh, man, so you think it's going to be? You think it's going to? Alabama's just going to jump out on Georgia early? That's what you feel like is going to happen?
I think that's the only way they're going to stand a chance to win this football game and be competitive. I think if they get down early and they're too one-dimensional, I think they're screwed.
Well, let me ask you this. All right, so you're trying to figure out these scenarios, things that can happen, things that I mean, if you look at the history, yes, you think Alabama beats Georgia. I mean, hell, it doesn't take much to Google Wikipedia the last few teams, and it's always big games, SEC championships, college football playoffs. It's big games that Kirby has buckled against Nick Saban. Right. But I just don't think they're the same programs, man. I at this moment, I don't. And the way that they're playing, I think the confidence is the thing, Mike. No one on that team is thinking about October 17th, 2020 when they last played. Nobody's thinking about this. Hell, there's probably a handful of people that were even on that SEC championship team. So I don't think that's what they worry about when they play Alabama, because they've been told every single week, not only by their coaching staff, by their family, by the players, by the tweets, by the message boards, by media, that they are right now doing something they've never done before. This isn't 1980, man. This team is freaking loaded from top to bottom, and I think confidence is key. I think confidence got rattled last week for Crimson Tide. Mm-hmm. That's my biggest concern, is that these guys fought tooth and nail to get to this to this game. Now maybe they overlooked Auburn. That could be a possibility. I mean, they already had the spot. We thought maybe it could be a little bit of a trap game, but your quarterback ran for his life last week against Auburn. Right. And it's not like Auburn's just all of a sudden turned into the steel curtain. You know what I'm saying? These guys have struggled getting pressure on quarterbacks in games past. So I don't know. I think the confidence is shaken a little bit, and that's why I like Georgia so much, just because they know what they're coming into. This isn't a buzzsaw. This is work, man. They got their hard hat. They got their lunchbox. They got Kirby in their ear telling them that they're the best damn team that's ever put that jersey on. And I feel that's the confidence we're going to see Saturday. So it's tough for me to see Alabama in this game. Now, that being said, how many times have we said that about Nick Saban? How many times have we went to a game saying there's, that this is going to be a tight one, or this is going to come down to the final possession? It seems like we try to make these storylines up, and then at the end of the game we're watching something else because it's a blowout in the fourth quarter. Do you think there's that possibility? I just want to ask you, do you think there's a chance that Georgia hasn't played anybody, and that Alabama is better prepared for this game from the competition they have played here of late? What would Alabama need to do? I mean, what do you see happen? Is there a chance that Alabama in the fourth quarter is just destroyed? Like, a lot of people are predicting a blowout on Georgia's side. Mm-hmm. Not as many people are predicting that on Alabama's side. Is there a scenario where you see Alabama coming out, like you said, Georgia hasn't played anybody, they haven't had the competition, and then maybe Alabama here of late, they've had some tight games, but they find ways to win. Georgia just took a nap halfway through that Georgia Tech game. They didn't really need anything. Is there some sort of scenario playing in your mind where Alabama not only jumps out, but just keeps scoring, and then Georgia's not able to keep up because they've not needed it?
No, I think there is a scenario, Shane. Now, I certainly am not predicting that because I think Georgia's that good of a football team. But, I think one narrative that has been talked a lot this week is the fact that Alabama's been battle-tested. And they've been battle-tested several weeks here in a row. And that's largely because they don't have as good a team as Georgia. But, you kind of hit on it there. They haven't faced adversity since week 1 against Clemson, and they've cruised. And now that's because they're a dominant team. They're better than everybody. They're taking care of business. I get all that, but what happens if an Alabama jumps on them? What happens if they get in a college football playoff and they find themselves in a 4-quarter game? I'm not saying that they have a team that can't answer that challenge, but they have not, experienced that themselves. I don't know if they know how they'd handle that type of challenge. So, I think we're going to find out a lot about Georgia here on Saturday, because I do think it's going to be a tight ball game, and I do think that they'll answer that challenge, and I think they'll win it there in the end. But until we see it, I mean, that is an unanswered question, and we could pretend that they'd be fine, and maybe they would be, but until we see it, we just don't know. And I think, if Will Anderson has himself one hell of a performance, if maybe something clicked there with Bryce Young, and I think one thing that gets overlooked by a lot of people with Alabama's struggles last week in the Iron Bowl was the fact that Jamison Williams got kicked out for targeting. I mean, he's just that big of a deal to their offense that it doesn't work without him in the lineup. He's going to be full go for this one. So what happens if he has a big game? I don't know if Georgia, as good as they are, has anyone in the secondary that can match up with Jamison Williams one-on-one. So, yeah, I definitely think there's a path to Alabama finding a way. Now, it's not a great shot. Again, they may be going up against the best defense we've ever seen. So, certainly not saying Georgia doesn't stand a chance. Hell, I'm picking Georgia to win a football game. But I just think Alabama, with everything they stand to lose if they lose this football game, I think that they're going to come with their best performance of the season, and that should be good enough to cover the spread.
Well, I tell you, Mike, the more we talk about it, the more I'd like to kind of walk that score back a little bit. Because I do remember the SEC championships and the college football playoffs.
Yep.
I have circled Georgia as a winner, and only to erase it and say, damn, Bama got him again, I think about the fake punts. I think about all that jazz. It's just, this is the championship, man. Forget the SEC, man. This is the two best teams. We're getting to watch them, and it's a shame that there's a scenario where both these guys don't make the college football playoffs. I would love – that's the one saving grace, Mike. If Alabama wins this thing, I think we get to see it again. I don't know what you think, but I think if Alabama finds a way to win this game, Georgia gets another opportunity in the college football playoffs. So I think that's one thing that you can hang your hat on. You can't go through a whole season and losing the SEC championship and not make this college football playoffs. There's no way they're keeping everybody. Nobody wants two SEC teams in there because they know what's going to happen. They're going to end up, dictating who's the champ. So either way, it's a win-win. So, I think Georgia gets it this time. But if they don't, Mike, the good thing is we're going to see it again in a couple of weeks.
Well, hey, buddy, I think we could talk ourselves into circles on this one. So,
yeah,
I think this is a great place to wrap it up. But, I just cannot wait for this game and to find out where all these teams are going bowling. Next time we meet, we'll have answers to all these questions. And looks like, man, we're going to be one hell of a weekend here, not only in the SEC, but with all the college football, with all these championship games. So,
absolutely.
You got anything before we hop off the line?
No, man. That's pretty much it. I'm ready. I'm locked in. I'm going to be watching football all weekend. So maybe we get on after. Maybe we get on at halftime. Maybe we'll find something. I'd like to maybe get with you at some point and maybe. But no, man. I'm pumped up. I'm ready. It's like I said. We only got a couple games left, Mike. You know what I'm saying? And what I hate about some of these bowl games, people don't play. They sit out. We're starting to see it already. It doesn't have the luster like it used to. But what does is these championship games. What does is the playoffs, So we got some really good football coming up. It's just unfortunately we don't have that many games. So I'm going to sponge up every ounce of it this weekend, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. I do appreciate you, Shane. I appreciate each and every one of you for checking us out all season long, not just this week. And I cannot wait to this championship game. Should be an epic one. But that is going to do it for this episode of the show. We'll catch you on the next one.
All right. See you guys. Go Vols. Locking down the dogs. Alabama just won, man. Crimson Tide fans are pumped up. Shane put $100 on the Bulldogs.